Shelby Yankee. I started kind of getting collecting in 1998 is probably when I really started. After seeing Saving Private Ryan, I took an interest in it probably in kindergarten. My family has been in the military dating probably, I want to say it's even before the Revolutionary War, whenever there was militias. And we've been involved in every major American conflict since. I am related to Stonewall Jackson and Francis Scott Key, so I'm very honored to be related to them. I did serve 5 years in the U.S. Army, one deployment to Iraq, this fellow right here, actually. So I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. I did try to keep it in somewhat maybe order for their time frames. Some of it is out of order, but just bear with me. And this is my first presentation doing for adults. I usually do for fifth grade. All right, so down here, this is a M1917 helmet. Used during World War I. It has the 1st Infantry Division insignia on the front here. Then I'm actually going to go back in time here. This is a cartridge belt. This would have been used around circa 1880s, 1890s. They used it during these Indian Wars, kind of later, but it was more used in the Spanish-American War. This is their earlier mess kit. I believe these came out in the late 1870s, and then they transitioned to a more narrow one. So if you took it and just kind of smashed it, that's what you get. It looked more like what we have later in the years of World War II and stuff like that. The bayonet I have right here, this would attach to a Krag rifle. This one is from 1898. And then it's scabbard and would attach to the belt. Alright, then this little pouch here, this would carry personal items. So this is from World War I era. You have a soap dish here, you have a trench mirror, you have a shaving kit, and then other various personal items. And what's neat that's in here is this little shaving kit made by Gillette. And then it even included a little trench mirror here.
Where do you get this stuff from?
So I acquired stuff, a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff on eBay. I've had stuff donated from friends, family, people that I didn't even know. Antique stores, Brass Armadillo. I shop there a lot, and if you know what you're looking for, you can find some pretty good things. I've learned a lot, so I realized that I've seen things in the past, and I'm like, man, I should have got that, you know. Just all over the place.
You have a
It's
permanent site that you display these things?
not yet. That is the plan. Right now, I'm just a little museum, so I travel to schools and stuff like that. But yeah, eventually I'd like to have someplace closer to Green Valley and just a permanent location for everything. Because I do go back to the Civil War and then everything all the way up to the World War term. Then I have the Springfield 1903 bayonet. So this would attach to the Springfield 1903 rifle. Remington did make one. It's exactly the same. The grip is a little bit different. This one is made out of sinew and then a canvas and a leather tip here. This one is from 1917. And then one of my favorite more recent finds is this bolo knife. These are made in St. Louis. And then the scabbard is same material. It's almost identical to the 1903 bayonet. It's just fatter and shorter. So. This one is from 1917 as well. A lot of bayonets and knives will have the date at the base here.
Is that double edged?
No, this one is just a single edge. I have seen where they've done it themselves. They make a double edge. The Marines, you'd see a lot of them actually using these up into World War II. Then their gas mask from World War I. So this is a little brittle, but the rubber on it is actually still very pliable. A lot of times whenever you find these, they're rock solid, so this actually still expands out. And then there are filters inside the bag here.
When you find these things, do they come at a pretty price, or are you surprised?
It kind of depends.
I found some things I've got a really good deal on, and then there's some things I did pay a hefty price, but I didn't want to let go.
You can tell us about those?
Well, I actually have one here. This little tube here. Anybody think they might know what this is?
Goes on out.
M68
law, like
So M72 law, yeah, pretty close. So law stands for light anti-tank weapon. So take this off, pull it apart, it's a rocket launcher. So these go for about $500, and I was able to get it for less than $200.
Have you fired it?
If I could, I would, but unfortunately you can't reload them.
Right.
Then I got
Scare some
M1
neighbors.
helmets here. These two are from World War II. So the netting on this helmet right here in my left hand, this was the only netting manufactured by the U.S. in World War II. They were acquiring a bunch of stuff from England or from Britain because they didn't have anything of their own, so they were just gathering up wherever they could get. So that would have been more of what this was. But they used this later in the war. I think they started using these in late 1944. And then the M1917 helmet was actually used all the way up into the 30s. I think 1941 is whenever they really stopped issuing it, and they issued the M1. They did enhance the M1917 helmet. It was called the M1917A1. So the shell was still the same, but the liner and the chin strap were all different. They put a sturdier leather liner in it, and then the chin strap was a canvas chin strap. It was very similar to what they have on M1 helmets. And then jump back a little bit. These are boots from World War I. They're very, very similar to what the French used. On the bottom, they would have hobnails, so it looked like somebody chopped them all off and kind of used it after the war, just as regular shoe boots.
The netting was to put leaves and branches for camouflage?
Yeah, so they could put any kind of foliage or anything like that in it. And I think what their initial task was is to kind of break up the shine, because as you can see, there's a shine on it from the light. They did have like a cork material that was put underneath, and then they painted it to kind of give it a rough edge, but a lot of that wear down. So yeah, it was to camouflage, but you know, at night, you peek over a crest or something like that, you're gonna get that shine on the helmet. They really wanted to break that up. This gas mask right here, this is the M5 gas mask. This is actually another one of those items that I paid, I think it was almost $400 for it. I've only ever seen them in museums. I've only seen 2 others on eBay. I got this one on eBay. I've seen them not go for, but people were asking about $800 to $1,000. And then this bag right here, this is the bag that it comes in. So this is more than a amphibious invasion gas mask. The paratroopers during World War II used these, as well as like on D-Day. All of the people landing on D-Day, they used these. Now I believe this was the first gas mask that they had that had a detachable filter like this that you would just screw on. Everything else was permanently attached. So like this one, you could screw it off, but it's not as easy as that one. It was intended just to stay on. This is actually a child's gas mask. So these would have been given out by like the civil defense during World War II. They made a small child and adult size for these. Also, here's the bag that comes in. This helmet right here, this is a Korean War helmet. This would have been used by the Marines. It does have a reversible helmet cover. It would be more for like desert or even like a drier climate where like the foliage is dead. You know, like fall for us, where everything turns brown or, you know, very dark orange. So they would have worn this during the Korean War. And this hat right here, this was worn by a Colonel Frank Cohen. I don't have his information memorized, but I do have it on some cards here, so bear with me a second. So the hat's actually from 1956. So he was born August 2nd, 1925 in Germany. He was Jewish. So the Nazis were looking for his father. He owned his father owned a sporting goods store. And so the Nazis, they kind of picketed that store. They said, you know, don't buy from Jews. So his father had left, I believe, for the U.S., and he was going to be coming back, but the mother said, don't come back. You know, they're looking for you, and they had planned on killing him. So Frank and Ruth, which is his mother, they were actually able to get visas to travel to the U.S. Well, by 1938, those visas kind of became permanent because things were getting worse for the Jews in Germany. And then in 1943, Cohen turned 18. He tried to enlist in the U.S. Army, but he was turned down because he was an enemy alien. You know, he was German, so. But then a month later, he got drafted. He was assigned to the 87th Infantry Division. While he was in Belgium, the Army discovered that Cohen spoke German. He was sent to an intelligence course and became a member of a 12th U.S. Army Group Intel unit. The Intel team's mission was to locate German infiltrators wearing U.S. uniforms. At one point, the Intel team had been interrogated by their own forces because a couple of them spoke or had a German accent. So that was kind of silly to me. You know,
Can't catch a break.
this is your job, and now their job, the people that do their same job, is trying to interrogate them. He also served in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and 2 tours in West Germany. He retired in 1978 as a colonel. The info I got from it's from the U.S. Department of Defense. He did pass away in 2021. So this helmet right here, this is a helicopter flight helmet, a SPH-4. This one was made in the late 80s, and there's a tag here marked from 1991. So it possibly could have been used during Desert Storm era. And then this book right here, this is from the Korean War era. So this is restricted information, so it gives people insight, or troops that need to know insight on like uniforms, rank, information about the North Koreans. This funny little voodoo doll. Anybody recognize this guy?
Baghdad Bob.
Saddam, yeah. So, they actually made a Bin Laden one like this, but it's a little bit smaller, but it's a voodoo doll. So, I just thought it was neat. I found it on eBay, and they're not very much online, but a neat little piece of history. This piece right here, I was gonna bring the piece that my father had, but I don't really have anything to put it in. But this is a piece of the Berlin Wall. So my dad, he was in the Air Force, and he was over in Germany in the late 80s, very early 90s, and got a piece of the Berlin Wall while he was there. This ACH helmet, don't say anything, but this is mine whenever I was in Iraq. So, they're a lot different than what they had prior to this. These gel inserts are to help with like brain fractures or any kind of head injury from shrapnel, bullets, whatever.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's that little box on the side?
This right here,
Yeah.
so this is actually multiple different lights. So there's a switch on the back, there's actually 2 switches on the back. And I don't have a battery in here, but you flip the switch and it will switch between different types of lights. Then this helmet right here is the Marine Corps lightweight helmet. To go back to this, they would have used these in Iraq and Afghanistan in the earlier parts. Before these, it was DCU camouflage for their helmets, uniforms. There's so many transitions that they made in Iraq and Afghanistan because the military was transitioning from BDU to ACU, but it was a long time. ACU, they did come out, or they were being designed in the early 2000s. They just hadn't came out yet. So a lot of the stuff that was used at the beginning of Iraq and Afghanistan was all BDU, DCU stuff. So their vest would be BDU, but yet their uniform would be DCU. So they were just clashing like crazy. But this one comes the same, gel inserts and stuff like that. And the Marine Corps, they have to put their logo on everything. So they have their little logo on the back of the strap here. And then their pattern, if you look close on some of these, there would be a little eagle globe and anchor. You gotta spot them. So they have them on their uniforms there. I'll pause right now. I'm gonna have her take over real quick because
This one's me.
this one is related to her grandfather.
Well, not related to it. It's my grandfather.
Well, you know what I mean.
I know what you meant. So this handsome fella right there, he's really small in the picture. That is my grandpa, Robert Schildhauer. And he was in the Army in World War II. And he, as ornery as he was on a train heading to the Carolinas. And kind of the class clown, his commanding officer took a shine to him and said, why don't you come up and meet some of the other upper people in another car? And so he said, okay. So he moves on over there with them and got involved in a card game of sorts with all these generals and high command officers. And among them was Mr. Oppenheimer. And he offered my grandfather a unique position on a project he was working on and asked him, are you dead set on going to the Carolinas, or would you like to hop a train and go to New Mexico with me? And he's like, I'll go anywhere, that's fine. So he got off the train, got on another one, headed to New Mexico, and he was a transport driver for one of the bombs. Back then they wouldn't tell you if you were actually carrying one of them, but he liked to brag that his truck was significantly heavier than the other trucks that were also hauling. So this is his picture with that, and then he also has his little certificate from the Manhattan Project. Okay, you.
Did he ever suffer any ill effects from being in that project?
Not that he would tell us. He was kind of a stubborn old guy and wouldn't go to any doctors if there was any issues. He did finally pass away about 10 years ago, just of natural causes. But if he did have any issues, he never said anything to anybody.
Okay, so this bayonet right here and scabbard, these are Romanian made, but these were issued to the Iraqis. This was actually a bring back. Somebody captured it in Kuwait City during Desert Storm. So it has a location, date, and everything. I think it's February 28, 1991. Kuwait City. The material that this handle is made out of is called, I believe, Bakelite. It's supposed to be a lighter, durable material. This little leaflet right here has two sides. It's all in Japanese. I can't read it. But these are the leaflets that would have been dropped over Japan, warning them about the atomic bomb. So I would imagine this is probably one that did not get dropped over there. Somebody probably picked it up, you know, to keep it as a souvenir or something like that. Actually, I'll start down here. This is a women's Army uniform. The uniform's from 1975 and the hat's from 1974, so Vietnam era. It does come with a skirt, hat, and then the coat. I just always thought that this material was neat. Women are a very important part of the military, even the Coast Guard, they're important too. A lot of people don't think so. So everybody plays a part. Women did, even though women didn't fight in like World War II or anything like that, they were still important. They had a job to do and they did it. So going from that, I'll go ahead and go to these uniforms. This is a World War II women's uniform. It's rank of captain. They all had this ribbon right here. This is the Women's Army Corps ribbon. So I think they were around until 1978, I believe, around their 1970s. So then this uniform right here is also World War II. This is a nurse uniform. They have the nurse pin right here and rank of lieutenant. This material is called seersucker, which I'm sure a lot of you women have seen this before. I think it's neat. This uniform, the uniform came with a skirt.
Mm-hmm.
No, it came with pants. But they do come with either pants or a skirt. So, but I don't usually bring that stuff and I don't have to display it, so, unless it's hanging up. Anyways, so yeah, I'll go ahead and go back down here. This is a Marine Corps uniform. This is their jungle style uniform used during Vietnam. Like I said, they left the logo on everything. I think it's a neat logo. I mean, why wouldn't you? And then they have their utility cap, also has their logo. But I have realized that the Army likes to be a little more flashy. So, I'll go ahead and move on to this uniform. So, this is somebody that, this did not belong to this individual. I had it made like his. His name was Sergeant Ray. He died in Afghanistan. He was actually one of our friends. I don't know the full story on it, unfortunately, but he did drown over there during combat operations. He was with the 200th MP. He has his MP Brizard here. And then this is the combat patch that we actually got in Iraq, which is the 2nd MEF Marines patch. So Marines Expeditionary Force. So, like I said, us Army guys like to be flashy. We have more patches and stuff we really don't do with. So, the Marines, their uniform is very basic. However, when it comes to their dress uniforms, they're very flashy. I'm sure you've all seen those uniforms. So they're pretty basic, just rank. And then they have their name, and then their name, and then this one. This uniform right here, this is the night camouflage. This is from Desert Storm era. So they do also have pants that come with this, full uniform. But I've never seen a cover for it. I believe they still only use the 6-color desert. This is a PASGT helmet, also known as just a Kevlar helmet. So here's the inside of it. You can kind of compare it to what the other ones look like, the later ones. So they use these helmets all the way up from the 80s up into the 2000s. I think I actually have one from 2001, something like that. So these types of helmets did actually still get used in Afghanistan and Iraq, but they were quickly changed to these. And I'll actually go back a little bit. So these M1 helmets, the shell, they were actually used from 1941 all the way up to the 80s. They still came out with helmet covers like this one, and then the helmet covers later. I don't have any BDU stuff, but y'all know the old BDU style camouflage that the military, everybody in the military used. This has the equipment that they would carry, just a typical setup. So their fuel pack, canteen, if they carried a pistol, this is the M12 holster, and then magazine pouches.
How much would that weigh?
This, just depending on what you carried, not a whole lot. The ammo would probably be the bulk of your weight. Now they did wear a flak jacket, which would add to the weight, but they didn't have plates in them, like bulletproof plates, strike plates. So they weren't as heavy as what we wore. But they did provide protection from like grenades, small arms fire, stuff like that, but they're not gonna be able to take lives with rounds. I didn't bring one of those vests. here. This is the M17 gas mask. This one was used for training. This specific one right here. My dad was in the Air Force, so this is the one he had. So it comes with the chemical hood. And then they had filters that you would have to put in on the sides here. They didn't have these nifty little screw-on filters for them. So they use these from Vietnam era all the way up into the 90s. And then they switched over to, I think it was the M40 gas mask. This uniform right here is another jungle uniform from the Vietnam era. This is used by the Army. This one has the 101st Airborne patch on it right here. And then it's kind of the same as what they used in like same basic style. Not the same equipment, but the same kind of style that they used in Desert Storm. So stuff didn't change too much from Vietnam to 80s, 90s. Just type of material. I'm sorry if you all can't see that from here. So field pack, canteens, and then magazine pouches. And then you got their first aid kit right there. This is an Ike jacket. I don't remember the specific year on it, but it's from the Korean War era. They were named after Ike, you know, I like Ike. Everybody liked the jacket. It was based off of a British design. That's why they're so short. This little jumpsuit right here, and I mean little, she was a tiny woman. This belonged to my great aunt Alice. She built B-25 planes for North American Aviation down in Fairfax, Kansas City. So she helped build the waist gun setups on those B-25s. She lived to be 102. So. Then this uniform right here, this is my grandpa's uniform. He was in the Missouri National Guard. He got out as a first sergeant. He was in a medical and NP company throughout his career. He enlisted in the early 50s and then got out, I don't remember which year, but he was in for 39 years. Then this uniform right here also comes with a few other items. So everybody's heard of the Doolittle raid during World War II. So this was Davy Jones. He went by David. So he was a pilot for the B-20 on one of the B-25s on Crew 5. So we got a little card here with the signature and his picture. The picture's from the late 60s. Then this little piece of paper here. This is from, it'd be 1942. It was a celebration after the Doolittle raid in honor of him. And these pictures, this is a picture that they sent. I bought it on an auction that the family put on, so it came from the family. I don't know if they put this in with everybody's. It's got a little number down here. I'm sure they printed off several of them. But he is the one second from the left. And then here's some pictures after the Doolittle raid. All of these fellows, they were in Crew 5, and he is on your far right there. after these photos, he continued to fly, but he was flying in Africa. So, September of 1942, show you his information here. So he was born in 1913. He started his pilot training in 1937, and then he volunteered in 1942 for the Doolittle raid. I saw a video where, or it was a video, but it had Doolittle's voice, and he was talking about Jones here, and he was saying that he surpassed, everybody else that was on the Doolittle raid for qualifications and stuff like that. He said he was like his best pilot. So during the training phase of the project, he flew the initial flights on the B-25, which were especially equipped for the Doolittle raid. After the Doolittle raid, this is during the Doolittle raid. So he bailed out after they bombed Tokyo. It was over China. So the Chinese actually helped him make his way back to Allied forces. So then, like I said, in September 1942, he was shot down over North Africa. He was captured by the Germans. He spent 2.5 years as a prisoner of war in Stalag 3. So that's a German POW camp ran by the German Air Force. So, as a result of his constant agitation and harassment of the enemy guards, he was selected for the escape committee by fellow prisoners. So, remember that little phrase, or that little phrase, agitation and harassment of the enemy guards, because I'll come back to that. So in 1958, he was selected director of the B-58 test force. He was able to maintain his flying status, flying the B-58, the TF-102, and T-33 aircraft. In 1964, he became Deputy Associate for Manned Spaceflight with NASA. 1967, he assumed duties as commander of the Air Force Eastern Test Range at Cape Kennedy, and then retired in 1973. So, back to that little phrase I wanted you guys to remember. Anybody seen The Great Escape? Great movie? Yeah. So, the character Hiltz is a fictional character. Steve McQueen's character is based off of this guy. This is his uniform from the late 60s, and he got out as a major general. This was a unique piece that I came across. For that stuff and that, I spent $414. So I had it appraised at $800 to $1,200. So that's a pretty good find. So I have these uniforms right down here. These are Marine Corps uniforms. Just like this uniform, these did not belong to the individuals. So this one belonged to Harder, Jordan Harder, and then this other one I made for Jonathan Yale. So here's what I was talking about before. These little logos here and the camouflage. USNC and the Eagle logo anchor. Just leave that stuff in there, camouflage. I thought that was pretty neat. So they were both killed April 22nd, 2008. There was a VBED, which is a vehicle-borne IED. It was a suicide truck. They went to the ECP at Joint Security Station Nasser. I believe it was called the Government Center. Do you remember? I think it's the Government Center. But so they shot the driver, and detonated, because I think it was one of those, the bombs where if they die, the bomb goes off. So they shot the vehicle. The vehicle still made it to ECP, not within. So it exploded. It killed Harder immediately, and then wounded Yale. But he shortly died from his wounds. But he saved, or they both saved. It was over 50 Marines, soldiers, some of our friends, and Iraqi police. I think the last piece that I have for you guys is a very unique piece, especially to this area. So this is a 1926, November 11th. So the Kansas City Times is the morning Kansas City Star. So this is showing the opening of the Liberty Memorial. That is all I have for you.